Hi, I'm Steve Alberts. This evening I want to share with you the story of the witness of the Antler cross. Growing up back in West Virginia on a little subsistence hillside farm, folks were a lot more frugal. We didn't buy a lot of things from the store. We grew most of the things there on the farm. We had a garden. We raised chickens and pigs. We had a milk cow. But to supplement what we had to eat, we harvested animals from the field. We accepted God's bounty. I can recall as a small child following my grandfather, hunting squirrels, hunting rabbits. We would always take them home. He would carefully clean them, take them into the house, wash them, and the women would prepare them and we would have sumptuous feasts. Over the years, as we grew older, us young boys were allowed to follow our dad and our grandfather and our uncle as they went to hunt the deer. We always used everything. We used the meat, we carefully prepared it. We took the hides and had them sent off to the tannery and made gloves from them. And us young kids, we loved to collect the antlers and play with them. Over the years, I'd collected quite a large number of antlers. And one evening, I was out in my shop thinking of something creative that I might do with those antlers. And I began to look at them, and I picked them up and carefully examined one of the antlers, and I began to really understand how different, how unique each one was from the other. No two antlers are the same, the way they come from the deer. And particularly interesting is the crown of the antler. It has a lot of knots and knobs and uniqueness to it. And as I was looking at these that particular evening, I began to conceive making something out of that antler cross that would witness to God's grace and God's glory, and witness to our uniqueness and our individualism. That night I made the first antler cross. I cut the crown from the deer antler. I used some of my carving tools and a little Dremel tool and coaxed an antler out of the face of the crown. Then I braided a necklace from it, and I began to wear that antler cross. Over the next few weeks, it was amazing the number of people that asked me about what the antler cross was made of, how I made it, and they commented on the uniqueness and the beauty of that simple little piece. Then I realized that this was not just an ornament, something to wear, symbolic of God's grace, but it was an opportunity to witness and to tell others about God's grace and glory. As I tell this story, as I gift these crosses to people, I comment again on that individual, unique crown of the antler. And to me, that's symbolic of the individual and unique gifts and talents that God gives each and every one of us. When I braid the necklaces, I braid them from 3 strands. That also is symbolic of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Each of these strings is strong in their own right, but when you braid them together, they're even stronger. When I gift the antler piece, I warn people, you're going to have to witness because people are going to ask you. Let me take you into the shop and show you how to make one. Let's go. Some of the antlers that we've kept over the years, we've left on the skull plate and left on actually the entire skull of the deer. People wonder how you can do that. It's quite easy. One, you can spend a lot of money with the taxidermist and have them boil the head and bleach it and all that sort of thing, but you can do the old country boy way that I do it. After the head is taken off of the deer and we've processed the meat, we'll take the whole head and bury it into the ground up to the crown of the antlers so that the antlers are still above the dirt line. And over the winter time, the little critters in the soil and the breakdown from bacteria take over. And if you leave the antler skull, the skull with the antlers on it, in the ground until the next summer, late in the summer, when you pick that skull up out of the ground, it will be almost miraculously cleaned. Sometimes there's a little bit of coloring on it from the color of the soil around it, but typically that washes off. And that's how we have, I think they call this a European mount. But these are some of the larger trophies that we've kept over the years that we have yet to turn into antler crosses. The first step in making an antler cross is to cut the skull plate and separate the two different antlers from the skull plate. Once that is done, I will cut this part of the skull plate away from the antler. That's the next step. You want to saw the skull plate away on a plane that's as level as possible with the crown of the antler, because this is the surface that we'll be working with as we move over to the bench and pick up our Dremel tool and begin to cut the antler into an antler cross. Sometimes I go ahead and cut a long section from the antler so it will easily fit in the vise. Where you want to go? Now I can easily put it in the vise and begin to work on bringing the cross out of the crown. Once I put the antler piece into the vise, then I can do either of two things. Most of the time lately, I've simply picked up a Dremel tool and begun to work. Other times I try to draw a small design. Tonight, I'm going to go freehand, and we're just going to see what we can get here. across. And now a hole for the lanyard. Quite simple and rudimentary. This particular cross is cut into the antler. Other crosses I raise out of the antler. I'll show you that next. Antler cross, I'm going to make it from the same skull plate, from the same deer head, but I need to take the antler off the skull plate, shorten it up so I can put it in my vise, and then I'll show you how to raise a cross out of an antler instead of cutting one in. Now we'll move over to the vise, and I try to turn it in the direction that I can have the cross in this plane. I'm going to have to change bits. It'll take me just a second here because that was chosen to cut down into the antler. I need to now shave parts of the antler off carefully, so I'm going to use another bit. Again, I could draw something on the antler and try to follow that, but most of the time I simply start in and see what happens. continue to work on this and dress it up, trim it up, make it a little more outstanding. No two crosses that I make are ever the same. Again, this is the beginning of another antler cross. Again, unique, different, just like God makes each and every one of us unique, individual, and different. That's part of the witness of the antler cross.
Second song. Okay, second song.
This evening I've shared a little bit about the Antler Cross with you. It's been a blessing and a privilege to have this ministry. It's a ministry from God, it's not from me. Actually, I hope that many hunters will begin to use the trophies that they have laying around in their garages to fashion antler crosses and witness with them. To date, I've probably given away 200 of these. There are at least a couple in South America. There's one in Haiti. If you look closely in the movie Country Strong, you may see my friend Ed Bruce wearing one as he comes down the hall early in the movie. There are antler crosses in many states of this United States now, and I continue to be blessed to give them away and witness to the grace and goodness and the individual gifts and talents that God has given all of us. For several years, I've given away these antler crosses. But recently, God spoke to me and said, Steve, let's use this to a greater good. So now, if someone would like to purchase one of these, there's no set cost, whatever you'd like to donate. But the money, all of the money, will go to one of three causes. Either the local food pantry at our church, or to Mission Discovery, which has missions around the world, teaching young people to have hearts of service. Or the third cause is to channel money to the awareness and prevention of human trafficking and human slavery. Thanks for spending the evening with us and hearing a little bit of the story of the Antler Cross. I hope that in some way it's been a blessing to you. I know that God's blessed me with this ministry, and I give Him all the glory. Thank you. Good night.